Welcome to Who Put This On, Season 6, Episode 12, where we watch Metal Shop Masters, Season 1, Episode 1. Welcome to Metal Shop. I'm Chris Lorenz.
I'm Noah Singer.
I'm Metal Shop Maxter.
If this is your first time joining us, we watch a different reality show each week, discussing it in minute detail, figuring out if it's good or bad. Max, what did we watch this week?
I don't have the description. Noah does.
I do.
Screwed up.
This week, we see 7 of America's top welding legends battle for the title of Metal Shop Master. That's on Metal Shop Masters on Netflix.
All right. So it's a standard competition show. 7 people compete to win the title of Metal Shop Master and $50,000 in this Netflix show. Hosted by Joe Coy.
Joe Coy, yeah.
Joe Coy.
I think he did a pretty good job. I like the announcer, the host here. I think that he has some flavor to it. He wasn't boring. He didn't detract. Like, I think he added to this show.
Yeah.
I thought that his choice was absolutely unhinged. He just doesn't fit the vibe of the show at all, I feel. He's very energetic.
I mean, we could talk about the vibe of the show being just off, like, in general.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's his fault.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
All right, so we got Joe Coy.
And then we got 2 of the judges. The judges are Stephanie Hoffman and David Madero.
Mhm.
I don't know who the fuck they are. Internet Corner could tell us if he so chooses.
We will find out.
So they seem fine. We'll get into, I guess, I have some qualms with their judging, but overall, standard stock, 2 judges, 1 host, 7 contestants. I guess so. One thing to note about this show compared to other ones is, like, there's only 1 challenge. So a lot of these other ones have multiple challenges. It's only on 1.
Yeah. Also, the runtime was like, without commercials, about 30 minutes. Weird format that didn't feel too compressed, didn't feel like it overstayed.
That's the great thing about Netflix is they can just have a runtime of whatever the fuck content they have. And I think that they did a good job of picking the runtime. I don't think that they went on too long. I don't think they went on too short. So, like, in terms of this, like,
They got to be close, though. Right? Like, because they're not just making it for Netflix. They usually syndicate it on, like, advertised back TV in different countries. So I agree. It definitely fit for the 35-minute length, but I think they can also chop that up, and do like a 42-minute or 22-minute.
I'm sure they can have different cuts of the show and do whatever they want. But I think that what we watched was an uncharted length, any length that they wanted. Like, it's fine.
It was good. Yeah. It was a very good one.
Well, now you lost my train. Let's go over what the first challenge was, because I think that's kind of what we're going to be talking about.
First challenge, only challenge.
So obviously, the first week of these things is always about you, so we can learn about you or your family and figure out, like, where you're from and who you are as a person. So it was make a facsimile of yourself in metal. It had to have 1 moving element. They had 2 weeks to prep the material and then 10 hours to weld and fabricate in the studio. So that's the challenge. Kind of cool. Some people did some cool things. Some people broke some rules. I think this is the first time I've ever seen something where they break the rules like this. Like, pretty blatant breaking the rules.
One edit, they had to make an avatar, not necessarily a facsimile. Little nuance.
I don't really know what the definitional difference of those 2 are.
Well, to me, like, a facsimile is meant to be like a replica, right? It's like a copy.
A facsimile would have the same bone structure as Noah.
Okay, all right, that's fair. An avatar.
Yeah.
I just didn't remember what they called it, so I went with whatever my brain came up with.
Oh, good. Just bring the
very
audience
close.
Along. Yeah.
So let's go person by person and what we thought and we'll get into who won and who lost. So spoilers, if you give a fuck. We got Ray. She's from Big Springs, Texas.
Texas.
Her sculpture was like a dress with wings.
Butterfly wings.
Yeah, she had like a dress, and then connected to the dress was like a butterfly wingsuit, but it wasn't really on her. It's kind of weird sculpture wise. But this one, we talked about rule breaking. She broke the rules. So she welded some pieces together before she got here. So she had to cut them, weld them down so she could re-weld them.
Yeah.
And she ended up breaking her wings, kind of. They didn't really open and close the way she wanted them to. But if she didn't do that, I don't know what she would have done in the studio, because like it seems like that would have taken at least half your time to to cut them and unweld them, which seems like a lot of time.
Honestly, a hard position for the producers. Like, what do? Do you just let them go ahead and deduct some points?
Whoa. This is all the producer's fault, though.
I agree. Instructions
it?
could have been better.
No, it's like, hey, call in like a week ahead of time.
Oh, sure, yeah.
What are you making? Like, oh, you sure you know the rule? Like this, all this takes is a call. Like, at some point in time, all this is going on, and be like, you know what the rules are, right? Like, no, not this.
Very much amateur hour over here.
Yeah, it's an amateur hour show for sure. COVID show, I imagine, as well.
Yeah. It has to be.
Could you imagine quarantining for weeks for this?
$50,000, dude.
$50,000.
Which is, as we talked about briefly while it was on, is kind of a low number, but this is also kind of 7 people, so you get 1 in 7 chance, right? That's pretty good.
Yeah, and then you also get like the street cred in this community of being the best.
Yeah, I mean, like, so we'll get into some of the people have actual installations some places, and I can't imagine there's that many like metal sculpturists, like in terms of like, hey, Apple, I want a metal sculpture of something. Like how many people are there?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it can't, like, there's probably more than we think, but to actually like make a job out of it can't be too many.
There's not exactly high demands.
Yeah. So that was Ray from Texas. Who else
got
do
a
we
couple
got?
moments in the show that are interesting. She took her jacket off, and the host and judge were like, "Don't do that. You're silly."
Yeah. Safety hazard.
I was surprised the producers let her.
They're like, "This is a safety hazard. You shouldn't do that." But then they let her keep doing it. And what are you doing? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, you're on TV. You can't be showing kids or whatever not to do shit like that. And the other thing that happened was she used the plasma torch to cut her stuff, which they did some cool like interstitial kind of things where they like taught you about metal welding, and it was kind of like something like a pencil probably that you would just like carve out metal with, so it like cuts through the metal, so you can make like cool like, I don't know, diagrams and stuff in it.
Yeah, it was cool.
I do hope there's more of that in the future.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like the most base level stuff.
So a show I have to compare this against is, I think, the creme de la creme, Great Pottery Throwdown, where they always spend a decent amount of time introducing the new techniques people will be using in a given episode. And I think that's the best part of the show, and more American shows should do that.
Yeah, they might do that. I feel like they would do that more when they're saying, hey, you do this way, and then they could talk more about how this way works. Whereas like this was like, you do whatever, and then they just was like, the one of the weaknesses, I agree with you, is this, like, I could have spent some more time understanding what plasma torch does. Like, I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
That's as best as I could tell you is what I told you. Like, I don't know any more about it.
I mean, these type of reality shows where you have like esoteric experts and you get to see their craft, they're super appealing, but they really have to hold you by the hand, especially in the beginning, or it's by episode and really bring you in deep. Otherwise, you can't really appreciate what they're doing. It's very hard.
Yeah. I mean, they could do a better job at that.
Yeah.
I thought her sculpture was kind of meh, and I thought the rule breaking was kind of like pretty egregious for her overall. I don't know. I didn't like her sculpture all that much, but I feel like I was predisposed to not like it.
Yeah.
Really what I'm getting at. Anyone else have an opinion on her sculpture at the end?
I thought it was creative, you know, putting wings on and like actually fly, like pretending to fly. I thought it was a very cool idea.
It was fine.
Yeah, I think her movement was just so disappointing. Like,
Mm.
I didn't really understand what I was supposed to do or how it was supposed to work. Anyway, she was middle of the pack. She's not going anywhere. Breaking the rules didn't affect her at all. So then we have Leah. She's from Oakland. She did a flower monster pendulum thing.
Yep.
Where she said she was being pulled between the flower monster on each side, which was the same thing. And I'm confused, and the judges are very confused on how this was an avatar. Like, one thing if you have like flowers on one side and like a metal workshop on one side, and it's like your head going between the two or your hands going between, like, you got to think about this a little more than just like, oh, I'm being pulled between two. What? Like, I never.
Good
never explained what
talents.
these things were.
Yeah.
I was just like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. You've never explained it. I don't know if it was just cut because it was silly or what. I have no idea. But she was in the bottom two because her flower monsters looked great. I agree that they were like looked really cool, but there was no avatar of her in this, and it made no fucking sense.
Yeah, I found a lot of their Instagrams. Like I'm looking at their like collection of work, and for Leah, it's like the majority of her work is extremely identical to these flowers, and so she's extremely talented, but seems like she's not as versatile potentially as some of these other guys. Like Frank, I'm sure we'll get to. Like he's all over the board in a very good way, right? He just kind of can do whatever. Where she seems more in like her lane, and she's like an expert in her lane.
Yeah, I mean, she could be a one note person, but she also says that she spends 300 hours on one project. So, you know, that's quite a big difference between 10.
That's so many hours.
Yeah, I mean, that's way too many hours. How many weeks is that? That's so many weeks of work if you're working 40 hours. It's just like nuts.
I mean, yeah, if you're working 10 hours a day, that's a month every day, right? It's banana town.
Yeah, that's when you gotta get paid those big bucks to make those things. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
All right. We talked about hers. Let's talk about who else? Tom, he made a robot with a moving head.
It was
There's nothing more to say about it. It's a robot with his arms up with a moving head. Like,
it was so funny though. In the show, like, so one thing I gotta give shit to the judges. They just go up to him. They're like, "Wow, very good. Now let's go to the results."
yeah, we could talk about the judges. Like, in terms of like Tom's, like, I have no idea if anyone actually did a good welding job here. I have no idea if these things lasted more than 5 seconds after they were reviewed. Like, I've got no idea what like how good people are doing or how bad people are doing. They're just like, does this look cool or not?
Yeah,
that's it.
That seems to be the only criteria. Yeah.
Yeah. The judging I found to be extremely lacking. Like, especially I've been watching Lego Masters a lot, which similar type of show, right? You have experts in a field and you have judges that are experts. They go around and they say what they like or not. But like in that show, you know, they're critiquing the technique, and like especially now they're further along, they're like giving really good feedback on like how things can be improved. And the feedback here just That's very good.
Yeah, there's no feedback. And like the Lego show is also one of those things could just be like what looks cool, what doesn't look cool. And like in a sense it is, but at the end of the day, like you still learn like, okay, this was pretty basic, and we didn't really get any shout outs to this. And I thought this thing looked pretty basic. I thought it looked kind of like meh, like, oh, you're making an avatar and you made a robot. Okay, got it.
I mean, it definitely wasn't as like extravagant as the other pieces, but it looked one of the most put together.
I mean, I get it. I get why he's not going home, but he was in the top two.
Right.
So like I was
they
just
didn't
like,
explain
really?
that.
He's in the top two?
Yeah. That's a good part.
Because I just thought I was like he did a great job fabricating it because he just came in and he TIG welded this thing together. I'm still a little unclear what TIG welding is, but they did pull it out.
Yeah, you're using like that little pen to.
Yeah, but they like. Is he still just using some solder to solder them together? Is he melting them together? Like I don't know.
They could have told us more.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted to know. But yeah, he made like a decent size like robot thing in 10 hours, which is pretty cool. Definitely like shows to his ability to design something like that and get it together working without any hiccups,
Yeah.
Which is like
just not super creative in any way. Like imagine you're head of robot. It probably looks like what this guy built, right?
Yeah, it really does. His moving piece was like his head like spun all the way around and I was like, it was kind of boring, but it is movement. It doesn't really, how does that make it part of your avatar?
Yeah.
Nothing. It has nothing to do with your avatar, really. This whole thing, even when he tried to explain what his avatar was, he was just like, I made a robot. I was like, oh, well.
And they just accepted it. They were like, yeah, cool, okay.
It was one of the worst. It was one of the worst descriptions of like this, like learn about me tasks I've ever seen. Like, oh, it's all timer, Tom. Let's talk about Frank. He's from Theodore, Alabama. He lost his 15-year-old son in an accident. Classic sob story. Very sad for you, Frank. Sorry. Sorry for you. His sculpture was an egg with like an avatar of him or a facsimile of him coming out of it. It was.
Did you watch it? How much of the show did you watch, Chris?
I watched the whole thing. He never really said what that thing was. It's just some like it was a body and a head. What do you want me to call it?
Max, do you want to take this one?
I gotta say, I don't remember this getting judged. I don't remember it getting built.
Okay, so let me catch you guys up.
You tell me. Okay.
Yeah.
The sculpture looked cool, but the description was not done very well.
So he went over in detail part of the show. He created a phoenix rising from the ashes, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
The phoenix makes a nest, puts it on fire, and recreates itself rising from the ashes. So it's a phoenix coming out of the ashes. It's a bird, not a person. That is the description. And it was another one where the judges, they're like, wow, that is great. Next. Just like that lackluster, like, guys, come on.
What was his movement again?
Yeah, they barely showed it moving, and it was hard to tell if it even did move. Like, I think they were showing the phoenix rise up and down, but
oh yeah, I think that's what he said, and I don't think it really did that.
No.
I did like his egg was like made with like
models
made out of like puzzly kind of pieces, like looked like a puzzle but wasn't a puzzle, and he all welded it together. I do have a qualm to pick though. I feel like this guy broke the rules, and it's very disingenuous to all the other competitors.
How so?
He made this like egg stand that was clearly welded together and just sitting there. Like they showed him at home with it welded together, and they showed it in the studio with it welded together. And I was like, where the fuck is going on? The entirety of this competition's all gone.
Yeah, I had a similar qualm there as well, especially because they dinged Ray and Seven, who we'll talk about, right, for doing some stuff beforehand improperly. It definitely didn't seem balanced there. Unclear why they let him pass.
Maybe it was cover time. I like, but he didn't have to remake it, so they just let him do it.
Yeah,
Maybe it was solid and carved and not prefabricated.
He 3D printed this metal piecing for his giant egg.
Yeah, I do love that he introduced me to the word puzzly pieces. He's
very puzzly.
He said it several times on the show, and I was like, "What a nice word." Puzzle.
That's his thing. Have you do you look up his Insta? Is that all in his Instagram?
He has a pretty good Insta. I haven't looked into the captions, but his artwork is pretty great.
We'll have to get an update on the end, or you can give us, which ones you liked on their Instagram as we go if you want.
There's a lot. I mean, I'm like going back. I did go back for like 7 or 8 profiles. It's
but I did like his sculpture at the end. I just didn't think his movement was very practical for this metal competition.
Definitely not.
That required movement. Let's talk about Seven. She, I don't know if it's a she or not.
Yes, I looked it up.
Okay, she is from Minneapolis, Minnesota. She's 39, so Max, not based off of the Seinfeld episode.
Maybe she renamed herself.
Was it called The Name? What was that Seinfeld?
I think it is The Name.
Yeah.
Can you
next episode we'll have a mug and
Noah, what's up?
What was it? Soda?
Can you jog the memory of myself in the audience?
So George is thinking about baby names with whatever his lady friends is, and he comes up with the name 7, which is Mickey Mantle's number. And some other couple steals the idea.
Yeah, the initial idea was he gave to this couple, you should name your kid Soda, and they hated it. But then he told the fiance 7, and then the fiance told them, and then they stole the name 7. And he's at the hospital yelling at them not to use the name 7. And the fiance is never going to name her kid 7. So it was a very comical situation. Very good Seinfeld episode.
Man, I can't believe this doesn't ring a bell. But is this the same fiance that died from licking the envelopes?
Yep.
Oh, spoilers, dude.
Oh, spoilers. too soon. Too soon.
Yes, same fiance, Susan.
All right. Well, 7 from Minnesota. Thank you for going on that tangent.
Yeah. So
what is
Flashdance was her inspiration to do metal sculpture. She did a closed fist sculpture. So she had she had a stand which she couldn't use because it was fabricated before they got there. It was a pretty elaborate stand, but then she had like a fist, like a Black Lives Matter fist.
Picture like Jesse Owens.
And the palm opened where you could store like a note and then close it. And she had a note in there that says "Keep Rising" as her avatar.
So I actually thought this thing looked pretty cool, except the movement was very lacking. It's a hinge,
Yeah, I mean, I thought it looked cool too, to be honest with you. And the movement, the definition for the movement wasn't really all that clear. If you told me a metal sculpture had to move and you just made a hinge that opened and closed, I'm like, okay, it's a metal sculpture. How much movement can I really get out of this thing? But compared to the other, other than the last person we talked about, the others had some pretty substantial movement. But the judges did not like this movement at all. And did not like her tone when they asked her, do you think this movement is significant? She said, this is movement. In a really, really, assertive tone. And she's gone. She was bottom 2. She's out of there.
Yeah.
I don't think that was quite fair, but somebody had to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom spoilers, the bottom two between Leia with the pendulum flower and Seven with the fist, they both, I think, are way too abstract for what the judges are looking for. And that's where you cross out, okay, did you were able to communicate? And then once you have better movement, the pendulum was a great movement. So I think it became pretty easy at that point.
This is where like the Lego show does a really good job of where like they don't eliminate somebody on week one. Because like week one really defines the tone and expectations.
Yeah.
And like it's kind of unfair to kick people off for like, oh, you wanted like really move like this was my plan. And I planned this months ago. And you didn't like there was no producer call obviously telling me not to bring in this thing.
I mean, she
There was no producer
also
call to like verify your idea before you got into the studio. And at that point it's too late.
this lady also broke the rules and had to start over instead
Yeah.
of welding down or de-welding.
Well, she just had an elaborate base that she had prefabricated that she couldn't use. So she just made a basic base. I thought it still looked really good. Like
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
even know
yeah.
if that old base looked cool. It probably would have been a bit better, but I don't think it really distracted from her overall statue, like sculpture to not have it.
No, the sculpture looked great, just not right for the competition.
That's weird because I think some of the others didn't look great. Like, and I thought this one did look good. So it's just like that's what I was saying with Ray's. Like I thought it looked. Didn't
I-
look-
I was very surprised that Seven went home, honestly.
yeah, I didn't really agree. Let's talk about Ivan. He did like a welding man statue where like it was his face or like he was standing there and like hammer like his movement was like a hammer movement down, but then as the hammer went up his like he had like part of his face went down into like the anvil, and then that was kind
So-
of his like movement.
It would look like he was striking the hammer of his own face and crafting his own face. I thought it was really cool. Like far and away the winner.
Yeah, super cool.
This guy's gonna kill it.
Yeah, I mean the thing was is like that movement was really cool, but like the statue, the like sculpture itself didn't look very good. Like it looked very rushed, and like the welding didn't look great as like overall. Like
Sure.
there was no. The judges said nothing about his welding, critiqued his welding at all, or said, "Oh, that welding looks great. That looks great." Like there was no like, this is a welding show. I want to know, but like, what's going on with people's welding here? If they did a good job or not? I don't really know. You know?
Yeah, I mean they just really were wowed by his engineering, and getting all the gears to work, and he had like many moving parts.
On a timer on a cam, which was really cool.
Yeah, cam system as they called in the show, which was an interesting term overall, I thought, but I can't really explain to you what it was.
It moves things on timers, basically. And it's very simple to set up.
Seemed to be like a gear system too, or like not a gear, but like a bike kind of system, like he's on a bike gearing system. I don't know. Anyway, they also talked about MIG welding in his section, where they use wire to connect two pieces of metal. How this is different than the other welding that we learned, I'm not entirely sure.
I wish I knew.
like it told me that they were different, but didn't really tell me what they were.
It's just like this one is different because it's kind of smaller.
After well, at the end, I guess, did we talk about that he wins? So the competitive
Yes.
the judges really liked his movement, and he won. Fine, the movement was really cool. Not who I would have picked as a winner, but you know.
You know, actually, I think what it is he just hewed to the assignments the most. Make something that is an avatar of you and with movement, and he had by far the coolest movement.
And like a literal avatar. Like you think for
Yeah.
Yeah.
an art show,
Yeah.
like, you could be a little outside the box with your avatar, but literally the top two are the people that literally made like essentially a person.
Yep.
They're not thinking outside the box that much. Then we got Lou, which our last competitor. He's from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Lou.
He CNC'd like a skull. So he like fabricated a design of a skull in a computer and like cut out the skull in I don't know how many, like 50 pieces, 40 pieces, I don't know. And then he like assembled them in the studio, which unclear how he assembled them. Not really sure like if they were just, bolted together. I don't know. And then he had some pretty simple movement with some gearing, with some metal, with flowers.
Mhm.
It didn't really fit the motif of the skull, but whatever, I guess.
Well, it's the whole Day of the Dead. Like
Dia
that
de los
definitely
Muertos.
yeah, Dios de los Muertos. His head was incredible. Like I thought that was so cool. The movement, yeah, it was kind of like okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The skull I thought striking.
The skull was cool.
Yeah.
I definitely like as like this challenge of like, okay, you get 2 weeks to fabricate and then 10 hours to assemble. This is the right kind of thing you could do. Like you come in, you really design it home, you cut it out, you come in, and then putting it together is like not that big of a deal because it's already together. Whereas like some of the other people like obviously didn't do a great job of that. Clearly breaking the rules. But I thought this was a great idea for this challenge. I don't think the movement worked very well for that person, but didn't work that well for a lot of people in this challenge. And he's middle of the road. It's fine. But it was definitely one of the more striking sculptures in the challenge. And that's it. That's all 7. Talked about who won, who lost.
We did it.
We talked about the judges. I'm curious if every week is going to be this whole 2-week thing, or like, I assume that now they're going to do only in studio challenges, right? Right?
I genuinely have no
It's
idea.
gotta be.
Like this COVID show, I feel like let's talk about production schedule. Let's do it.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
questions. Like it's got to be a COVID show. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but it's most likely a COVID show.
I'm sure it is.
We have 2 weeks quarantine, 2 weeks to make this thing. The only thing that would change that is if the next week they get another 2 weeks to prep something else.
Yeah, I doubt it. Like I think it's gonna be reminiscent of Lego show. Like you'll get 12 hours or 8 hours, like one of these like very extended time periods, and it's gonna have to do something.
Yeah, I mean, probably like a week in the studio. Like give them a day to do each
Yeah.
thing and judge it, get them out of there.
I can see at the last challenge, they'll be like, okay, you have 2-3 days, and it's always like, tell your story. There's no more rules anymore. Show what you can do.
Give me your predictions for the episode titles, for the episodes that they're gonna do.
Oh man, I want to say it'll be a lot of puns. So it'll be like, hard metal, getting lit, twisted metal.
There's only so many balls of steel.
All right. I'll give you the I'll give you some show descriptions again here. Getting fishy is the next episode. What do you think fishy is?
Very predictable.
Yeah.
It's a cooking, so they have to make grillable form meats, ingenious function. It's such a terrible description. They have to make all metal barbecues.
Interesting.
Then there's Lost in the Sauce. Time to get scrappy. They have to use random things. The Sound of Music. So they have to make some sort of musical thing. Shadow of a Doubt. So they have to make some sort of shadow puppet.
Oh, that's cool.
And then there's Migs, Tigs, and Automobiles last episode.
Okay.
They have to make a pedal assisted vehicle.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool. It's good. It's a good lineup.
I do think that out of all of these things, the first episode seems the lamest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of those ones we should have looked up. Like,
It's fine.
all right. While we talk about drinking rules, can somebody look up who the hell this host is and if this is a
Joe Coy.
So I got a drinking rule. Anytime anyone says something is badass
Holy
or
shit.
really, take a drink. Like, they say badass all the time, and they say really a lot. So that I feel like that's a good drinking rule. Noah, you have a drinking rule?
Max gave out a holy shit though. What is Max?
Oh,
what is Max? Shit.
I looked up Joe Coy. This is not the whole.
We'll get to him in a minute.
Okay.
We're talking about drinking rules, Noah.
All right.
Drinking
well,
rules.
you know, Max had a holy shit. I wanted him to know.
No.
I thought he was talking about my drinking.
Anyway, every time someone says something on the show that you don't understand, take a drink.
Max, you got one?
Every time somebody makes a mistake, drink a bottle. Or sorry, when I say makes a mistake, I mean breaks the rules.
Mm.
I think that's kind of a lame rule, Max. Just gonna let you know.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this host a bit. Is this Apex downgrade for this host, Max?
Okay, so here's why I said holy shit. While
All right.
I was watching the show, I was trying to figure out like who the fuck is this guy? He seems like somebody's uncle who would be on like E or something. And I found out that he was a frequent panelist on E's late night show, Chelsea Lately. So I
Yeah.
predicted this guy's previous career without looking it up.
He's got the vibes from him.
Yeah. Also, he's from Tacoma.
I saw that. Yeah, at Tacomas. He's a Tacoman.
Let's do. Would this show be better as a? Well, I guess we didn't answer that question. So this is a downgrade, I guess.
No, this is an upgrade. He's, center of attention.
Yeah, definitely upgrades center of attention, but he's had some stuff.
But like, he's on a random Netflix show versus like being on like
Chelsea
network
Lately.
TV, or that's not network, but like cable television. I don't know.
It's his show.
Like, if somebody just shows up on the Daily Show, 6 times versus they have their own Netflix show.
This is not their own show, like, but he is the host. All right, fine, upgrade, Apex, I guess at that point.
Yep.
Let's talk about, would the show be better as a Quibi?
This show would be better if it didn't exist.
Oh, harsh.
Ooh,
Harsh.
whoa.
I'm not sure about that one.
Wow. No, I'm gonna go with no. The reason being, like as we've talked about, a lot of this show could be teaching and helping us understand. Like you can do this in a Quibi way, but I don't think it'd be better.
Yeah, I agree. I think that standard competition shows like don't really work, but if it was like a 2 or 3 person competition, that could kind of work as a Quibi.
Yeah.
Let's I guess we could move on to our favorite question. Would the show be better if they were naked? Max?
That would be fucking wild. Just from like an OSHA standpoint.
I mean, they almost let her go like naked. At least she wasn't wearing her safety equipment. All right, let's get into a real favorite question. Do your ratings do a stack ranking system between top, middle, and bottom third?
Wait, whoa.
Which one do you want to talk about?
Who's the worst human being?
Oh, you're right. I skipped it for no reason.
Well, you have to answer first now.
I have to answer first.
That's how it works. Them's the rules.
I think the producers for not setting this competition up correctly and having multiple people break the rules, which means it's a producer problem and not a competitor problem.
Agreed. They done
There'd be the
goofs.
human beings involved, and maybe them for not forcing that person to wear safety equipment. Like there's definitely some like heavy producer errors going on right now. Noah, now who do you think the worst human being is?
That was a good one. I'm kind of caught. You know what? I was gonna say the people that cheated, but now I'm like, well, it was their fault. So I'm
I
gonna
mean,
meditate.
3 out of 7 people cheated, Noah. Like, and only 2 people were actually called out on cheating. Like,
so, well,
how is it their fault?
so I'll take a different turn here. For me, it's the judges. They don't add much value. Joe Coy, I think, has good host value. The judges are really need to teach us, and they don't. They don't teach us.
I was gonna say the judges too for kicking off the only black person on the show, but you know,
Fair.
It's harsh.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna stick with the producers though. I think that they're
Yeah.
this is a terribly produced show.
Yeah.
At least it's produced with a lot of errors. I don't know if it's necessarily that makes it super terrible. I think it's watchable. But it definitely comes down to the fact that we kind of briefly mentioned it earlier that like the tone of the show seems weird for something like this, where it's like, you know, in the Lego show they talk about techniques and like setting these up, and we get to see things going on. But this show's like it's got some humor, but it doesn't really go into how people are actually making these things. Just kind of go over what their idea is. It doesn't get. It's just the tone seems weirdly all over the place.
There's more spent on like the drama than what they're actually doing, and that just doesn't work for this genre of show, I think.
No, not in 30 minutes. Definitely not. All right, let's get back to our rankings. As I discussed, we've got top, middle, bottom, third, and some people might stack rank in their stack ranks. Noah, what do you got for me?
Yeah. I'm putting this as a solid middle. I really like these shows where, you know, I'll keep going back because I like saying these words together. Esoteric experts. And I think especially when you detail the upcoming episodes, that got me much more into it to see what they can put together. I think the 35-minute package is a really nice, tight package. Hopefully we get more education. So solid middle, I think, has potential to go either way, depending on how the other episodes come out.
I'm going with no on this one. I think it's middle third, solid middle. Like it was cool to see these sculptures. I think the sculptures are cool. I wish that was done a bit better, or it could be top third. I think that this format doing like a art, like kind of an artsy, like esoteric kind of stuff is like great. It can be really good. Definitely like my top 10 shows probably of all time that we've watched or like similar format. So the fact that it's middle third is really just a disappointment because it could be a lot better. Could get some more learning in there, get some better critique. Like the judges really hold the show back, I think. And the production, obviously mistakes really are glaring, very glaring. And then they blame the people on the show and this is just like your fault. Max, what do you have for us?
I agree wholeheartedly that this type of medium could be great as a show, but I think this show doesn't stick the landing at all. There's nothing about it that I can really recommend as like really well executed. So I'm gonna have to say bottom third, but top of the bottom. Not the worst thing in the world, but just, you know, it's not an excuse that the first episode is boring and just introduces people. You gotta get me excited about the show, and they didn't.
That is one thing that they didn't have this season on, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think it's probably one of the first shows we watched recently that did not have that. That's been a really go-to trope.
Usually they have two. One at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
And we usually talk shit about it, but maybe there's something to it.
No, I think there's definitely something to it at the end of an episode. I've met all the people. Now let's give me brief glimpses of what's coming up. I shit on it once at the beginning because I think it does a disservice to the whole show because I don't know who the fuck these people are.
That I agree.
No context. It's very silly and it doesn't belong at the beginning of the show. But who knows? I'm not the one looking at the numbers to know. Maybe it gets more people to watch. I have to assume because that's why you would do it. But maybe it's just not everyone's doing it. It's not always the case. I don't know. Anyway, That's it for our discussion of Metal Shop Masters. Let's get into shout outs. Noah, you got a shout out this week?
Trying to think of anything novel. You know what? I'm just gonna fall back because the finale's coming up. It's Lego Masters. Yeah, solid show. Will Arnett, like I don't want to say he's great, but it's tacky and like tongue in cheek enough that it just continues to push. The judges are great, contestants are great. Cannot, yeah, go watch it.
I'm gonna be honest. I thought the first season was better than the second season, and I think
Hmm.
it comes down to just like second season's like competitions are like very, let me say, like they're out there. They're not just like, hey, build me a cool thing in space that looks cool in space, or a cool thing that looks on like on a parade. Like it's really cool to see what people's imaginations come up with, but then
Yep.
the season's been like make a hat, and I'm just like, it's kind of like that was fine because that was like something cool to people see, but it was like
Yeah.
make something that looks cool that gets destroyed or gets blown in the wind or takes an earthquake, and I'm just like, I just kind of want to see people make cool shit, and
Yeah.
I feel like it gets in the way a lot.
Got it. Like the competitions were a little too like on point.
Yeah, they're a little too on the rails or
Mm.
like
Mm.
too out there. I don't know. I don't know really what it is, to be honest with you. Maybe it's just that Lego doesn't last that long as like a format of show I want to watch. I don't know. It's still fine, but it's not
Yeah.
like appointment TV like I thought season one was.
Gotcha.
I might pop on season 1 as like background TV during work or something.
It's a very backgroundable show. You're like,
Oh yeah.
oh, towards the end of the
Yeah.
show, you're like, oh, what do they make? Oh, that's kind of cool. Like, it's very backgroundable.
Yeah.
Max, you got a shout out this week?
One of my friends told me to watch the awfully named Money Heist on Netflix.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
In Spanish, it's called House of Paper.
Oh.
It's
That's a very different show title.
yeah. If you enjoy heist stuff, would highly recommend.
Interesting.
I watched a good amount of season one. I couldn't really get through it. Like it started to slow down a lot for me. But I know they've been pumping seasons out, so
I agree. It's gotten to a point where like each week, some new bullshit pops up that they have to resolve, and it definitely the first episodes were stronger, but I'm still riding through season 1. We'll see.
Are you watching the sub or dub, Max?
Please. Do I look like a scrub?
For the audience, Max.
I'm watching subs, of course.
Okay.
this was one show because I find the story to be like so. I went dub, and it was
That's
much,
probably why you couldn't make it through it.
but it's not.
It's not good enough to give your full
Yeah,
attention to, is
right,
it?
exactly. Like it's so like it's such a basic-y story. That's
Yeah,
like, okay, I'll be on my phone. It's playing. Cool.
Well, there you go. Ringing endorsement for Money Heist on. Have you guys been keeping up watching What If, the Netflix Disney thing?
I've never watched an episode.
No, this is
okay. Just as I think that it's pretty good at this point. I think episode 1 was terrible. It was absolutely not what I was expecting, and I think it was pretty poor. But ever since then, it's been gradually getting better and better. I definitely recommend giving it a shot. Animated, got a lot of people back from the show, and the latest one was pretty cool. Killmonger gets a real episode. It's kind of cool. Second thing, shout out is Why the Last Man started on Hulu this week. It's a small spoiler, but it's just the premise of the show is that at some point everyone but one man just dies. So that's like, how does the world deal with only women? And it seems poorly, but I think we get to see what really would have happened if the snap happened. Another interpretation of that, I guess.
That's cool.
But yeah, I think that the first episode was kind of slow, but definitely started picking up and getting pretty interesting by the end of the third episode. And I would say give it a watch. And I'll end with the watch Taskmaster. Such a great show. Watched all 11 seasons. It's now in, I think, the Hoop-a-thon all Hall of Fame because I don't think I've ever done that before.
Wow.
Any like seasons. Next up is apparently there's a New Year special and the New Zealand one. So there you have it. That's it for us this week. You can find us on Twitter at Hoop-a-thon. You can find us on Facebook.com/Hoop-a-thon. You can email us questions, suggestions at Hoop-a-thon@gmail.com. See you guys next time. How many gobbles can you make in 15 minutes?
How many? Oh, goblets. I was like, what's a gobble?
A gobble.
Where are people making gobbles?
Gobble, gobble.